I'm using a throwaway because my boyfriend's friends follow my main, and I don't need the LOL creepypasta comments right now. I'm a 29-year-old woman living in Portland, Oregon, and until last month I thought the creepiest thing in my apartment was the boilers clanking. That was before I bought the Labubu. If you don't know what that is, Labubu is a designer toy, a small goblin rabbit figure with huge eyes, tall ears, and a toothy grin. Collectors go crazy for rare editions. I'm not rich, but I hunt eBay for deals. 2 weeks ago, a listing popped up at 3 a.m. Labubu Night Parade variant, open box, no returns for $25. That's insanely cheap. The seller had zero feedback, and the description just said, no video reviews. I figured maybe it was a scam, but worst case, I'd get a fake for display. It arrived 3 days later in a plain brown box. Inside was the official Labubu packaging, but the front sticker was weird. It read, "Do not peel, smile," in blocky letters. I thought it was some kind of marketing joke. The figure itself was heavier than I expected, with a matte finish that felt almost like skin. The grin had tiny sculpted teeth that gleamed under the light. For fun, I peeled the sticker off. It left a faint smell, sweet, almost floral, with a sharp metallic edge. I set it on my desk next to my mic setup. I do voiceover work for extra cash, mostly narrating scary stories. The first night, while editing, I heard a faint tapping. I paused my audio track and listened. Nothing. When I looked back at my desk, the Labubu's head was angled slightly toward me. I told myself I was imagining it. The next day, I woke to a strange DM on Instagram from an account called Dandelion Teeth. Don't peel the smile. Cover mirrors. Do not feed reflection. I laughed and tried to reply, but the account vanished before I could hit send. That night around 3 a.m., the tapping came again. This time it was louder. I turned on the lamp. The Labubu was facing me directly. Its grin seemed wider. I picked it up and examined it. That's when I noticed a barely visible seam inside the mouth. Curiosity overrode common sense. I pressed on the grin and it popped off with a soft click. Behind it were teeth. Not sculpted plastic, thin, needle-like projections, all pointing inward, like the mouth of a sea creature. The violet metal smell intensified, making my stomach turn. I snapped the grin back on and shoved it to the far end of the desk. The following morning, the figure was back in its original spot next to my mic. I live alone. The front door was locked. The only explanation I could think of was that I was sleepwalking, but I've never done that before. I posted in a Labubu collectors group, asking if anyone had heard of a removable smile variant. The replies were all no such release, and sounds like a bootleg. Then I got another DM from a Dandelion Teeth. Count before you sleep. Again, the account vanished right after. That night, I put the figure in its box, taped it shut, and left it on the kitchen counter. I even filmed it with my phone propped up against a mug. Around 3:07 a.m., the camera caught the box shifting slightly. At 3:09, the tape lifted just enough to gape open. At 3:13, something small and pale rolled into frame. It looked like a tooth. The video quality was too grainy to be sure. In the morning, the box was taped shut again, but sitting in the middle of my living room rug. I opened it. The Labubu stared up at me with that perfect grin. In its lap was a baby tooth. My niece had lost one last week. My sister keeps them in a jar on her dresser. I called her, trying to sound casual, and asked if they were all there. She checked. One was missing. I wanted to throw the thing out, but I kept thinking about the DMs. Count before you sleep. Count what? I inspected the grin again. The tiny sculpted teeth were just decoration, but the inner needle teeth, there were 6. 6 perfect ivory pins. My stomach dropped when I remembered the words on the sticker. Do not peel, smile. That night, I decided to count out loud, just to see. 1, 2, 3. My voice wavered. 4, 5, 6. I paused before saying 7. Inside the silence, I heard ch-ch from inside the grin, followed by a faint scraping sound from my hallway. When I looked up, the Labubu was no longer on my desk. It was standing in the doorway. I froze. My brain refused to process what my eyes were telling it. The Labubu figure, 7 inches of painted vinyl, was standing upright in my bedroom doorway. No wires, no tricks. Just there, in the spill of hallway light, its long ears tilted, slightly like it was listening. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I remember thinking, if I blink, it'll be closer. The figure didn't move either, but the air felt heavy, like the moment before a thunderclap. I glanced toward my phone on the desk, but in that split second my eyes flicked away. The Labubu's grin seemed wider when I looked back. My throat went dry. The violet metal smell was so thick it felt like breathing syrup. I managed to stand. Slow, never breaking eye contact. "You're just a toy," I whispered, my voice shaking. My heel caught on the rug as I edged toward the desk, but I didn't dare turn my back. My fingers closed around my phone, ice cold from sitting still too long. I hit the flashlight. The beam caught the Labubu square in the face. For a second, it looked like a toy again. Frozen vinyl, glossy eyes. Then the light flickered. In the dark gap between flashes, I swear I saw the inner needle teeth shift like they were tasting the air. Something hit the floor. A tiny clink. I lowered the light just enough to see another baby tooth lying by my bedroom doorframe. My chest tightened so hard I thought I'd pass out. I grabbed the figure with both hands, trying to ignore the warm give of its matte skin, and shoved it back into the box on my desk. The grin stayed on, but I could feel it vibrating faintly against my palms. I taped the box shut, wrapped it in a towel, shoved it in my closet, and wedged a chair under the door handle. My pulse didn't slow until after dawn. Day 2 without sleep. I kept telling myself I'd imagined it all, that I was stressed, dehydrated, maybe even dreaming. But when I checked my hallway security cam footage, the timestamp at 3:06 a.m. showed my bedroom door slowly opening, and nothing coming through. Just darkness. That afternoon, I decided to drop it at a thrift store. I grabbed the box from the closet and headed for the elevator. But when I stepped in, I realized the box felt lighter. My hands shook as I opened it right there, empty. The towel was inside, still wrapped tight, but the figure was gone. I tore apart my apartment, under the bed, behind the fridge, inside the bathroom cabinet. Nothing. Then, around 5 p.m., I smelled violets again, faint but growing stronger. I followed it to my desk. The Labubu was back in its original spot, perfectly centered in front of my monitor, facing me. The grin had changed. The outer plastic smile was the same, but underneath, just visible if you tilted your head, was a 7th inner tooth, longer than the others. Sharp enough to glint. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to count again. But my brain kept replaying the DM, count before you sleep. Don't look at the 7th. That night, I decided to record everything. I set my phone to live stream privately to a burner account, just in case something happened. At 3:01 a.m., the tapping began. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. I tried not to look, but the smell got so strong it felt like it coated my tongue. At 3:04, the stream caught movement, the Labubu turning its head slowly toward the camera. At 3:05, it lifted one arm. The grin shifted slightly. Not off, but open enough to show the 7 inner teeth moving in slow circular motion. At 3:06, my phone froze. Not the stream, the phone itself. Every app crashed. The only thing on the screen was the camera view, but it was now showing my face. Except I wasn't holding the phone. My reflection smiled a second late, the grin too wide. I dropped the phone. It landed face up, still showing me, except in the frame. The Labubu was perched on my shoulder like a ventriloquist's doll, its mouth close to my ear. I could hear the faintest whisper, though the room was silent, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I didn't let it say 7. I grabbed the phone, slammed the stream shut, and ran to the kitchen. My only thought was to destroy it. I grabbed the heaviest cast iron skillet I own and swung down on the Labubu's head. The sound wasn't plastic breaking. It was wet, like hitting fruit. The violet smell burst out, overpowering. I hit it again and again until the figure cracked. The grin popped off, skittering across the floor. The inner mouth gaped open. Inside was not vinyl. It was a hollow cavity lined with those needle teeth, all twitching, all pointing inward. In the center, nestled like a pearl, were 7 tiny, human teeth. 3 were flat molars. 3 were small incisors. 1 was new, sharp, and long. I dumped the whole mess into a trash bag, tied it tight, and ran it to the dumpster behind the building. I didn't sleep at all. The next evening, my sister called. She sounded off. She said my niece had lost another tooth that morning, but they couldn't find it. She asked if I was okay because I sounded tired. I told her I was fine and hung up. I went to the kitchen to make coffee and stopped cold. The towel I'd wrapped the Labubu in, the one that should have been in the dumpster, was sitting neatly folded on my counter. On top of it sat the grin, no figure. Just the smile. I backed away slowly. My phone buzzed. A new DM from Dandelion Teeth. It doesn't need the rest anymore. That night, I locked every door, covered every mirror, and sat with my back to the wall. I could still smell violets. Somewhere in the dark, there was tapping and counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then silence. When I woke up, if I slept at all, there was something on my pillow. A tooth, not mine.